Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have just finished my testing for the latest EU e-privacy directive release. This is going to be a longer video because quite a few things have changed, and I would like to, kind of cover all of the bases of how the plugin operates now, and I hope that you're watching this before you did the install or the upgrade, because this is going to get deep. Right off the bat, I made a few changes to bring the plugin in closer compliance to GDPR. As I've been reading it, I find little bits and pieces that I had missed in my previous versions. Now, these things that I missed are not going to cause your site to have violated the law, because the law has not been in effect for long enough for these things to have affected you. So primarily the one change I want to make clear here is that the long-term cookie now has a lifespan that's based on the original consent date. Reading through the documentation, what was it, 6 months? I want to say it's 6 months. The lifespan of consent is 6 months. So what this does is in your configuration where you choose what the cookie duration is, whatever this duration is, it can never be longer than 6 months. The system will not allow it. Now, what the way that the plugin operates is, if you consent, it sets a cookie. It's plug sys ePrivacy, and this cookie contains the date that you accepted the cookie, the maximum age that this cookie can become, and the different levels that you accepted when you accepted the cookie, when you consented to cookies. So each time you visit the site, the cookie gets renewed for another, in this case, 30 days. But this constant renewal can never exceed 6 months from the date that original consent was given. So we've not reached 6 months beyond May 25th. So you're all fine. No one has violated this aspect of the law yet, so upgrade now. Your new version will protect you from that piece of the law. Now it will protect you from that piece of the law for cookies that are assigned by and for your domain. So, I can't control the lifetime of a cookie from Google or Yahoo or Facebook or whatever. But I can change the maximum lifespan of the cookies assigned by your domain where this plugin is installed. I had a user contact me and inform me that the policy target wasn't working anymore for the legal links. So I fixed that. That's been repaired. You may notice that JS Confirm is no longer available for selection. It's still here for those of you who have chosen JS Confirm, so that it will still operate. I didn't remove any of the code that would allow it to operate. But it is not capable of displaying all of the possible options now. So I have to get rid of it. I know that's it's a great fallback if you can't get the ribbon or the module or the modal to look right with your template, but it's got to go. It can't display the granular consent that is now built into this plugin. You're going to see another option here for JavaScript events. Right now they always fire, but I'm not ready to really turn this feature on, because it's although it's integrated, it still attempts to fire the other methods at the same time. Right now the JavaScript events always fire. When this is ready for prime time, when JavaScript events is ready for prime time, selecting this will disable all of the others, and your consent and your reconsider options will be up to you to write JavaScript to display them. So this is not going to be beneficial to most people. This is really for, you know, the power users, the ones who are capable of writing some code for this. And you know, it's not that nobody will be able to use it. My plan is to rewrite the modal window and the ribbon as standalone packages that you would unzip onto your system and customize, and then you would trigger with the JavaScript events. So modal window and page ribbon will become like add-ons to this at a later date, at a much later date. I'm not ready for that right now. I did a lot of testing. I did a lot of work to bring the new features in 3.10 up to release quality. So let's move on here. Privacy policies, that's already been done. Login links. Change the behavior of this login links. I know that this has only been around since 3.9. What these now do, they don't trigger the JS confirm. What they do is relaunch your consent window, or it reopens the consent module, or it reopens the consent ribbon, the modal. You know, whichever your consent display method is, it reopens it. So if a user has declined and then attempts to click on any of the links you define here, it reopens the consent. And then they have to consent before they can click on these links. So slightly change the behavior of that. Nothing changed, nothing changed, nothing changed. Cookie definitions. This is going to be the most confusing part of this is going to be the most confusing part of the changes in 3.10. So I'm going to skip past it. I'm going to jump to advanced here. Yeah. The Geo plugin. I'm leaving the option to be called Geo plugin because it's still sort of true. Prior to 3.10, this extension integrated with geoplugin.com to do geo IP lookups in order to determine if an IP address was from the EU or not. I had several users contact me and tell me that was unreliable, even though they had signed up for geoplugin.com. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. So I have implemented, I think I closed it. I closed it. I have implemented the geolocation IP library from, man, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Chirag Mehta. Anyway. So this is a separate plugin that is going to be delivered with ePrivacy, and if you choose to enable the Geo plugin within ePrivacy, it's going to prompt you to enable this plugin. Now this plugin operates in two modes. It operates in cron mode or in regular mode. So regular mode is the default, where the system caches its last update time, and if you don't have the latest GeoIP location library, or if the one you have is more than 24 hours old, it downloads and updates that library within the system. It lives in the Joomla temporary directory, so it's not updating within the plugin directory. You can still uninstall. It's not going to prevent you from uninstalling. Like I said, this operates in two modes. The regular mode, upon launch, it checks to see if that geolocation library exists, and then it checks to see what its age is based on the cached last update time. And if it's older than 24 hours, it downloads the newest one, and then it automatically calculates the country code, the country abbreviation, and the full country name for the IP address that's accessing the system now, and caches this information to make secondary lookups faster. The other mode that this operates in is in the CLI cron mode. If you are familiar with this, if you know how to create a cron job, if you're capable of creating a cron job on your server, then you will create this cron job, switch this to yes, and I'm going to say you're only going to want to run the cron job once a day. That's all that my site updates once a day to retrieve the geolocation library. I don't want to hose this guy's server, so I'm downloading the geolocation library and storing it on my CDN, so that my users are downloading it from, some place that's not killing this guy's bandwidth. So I'm hosting it on my CDN so that I can redistribute to you guys. I've got some other details in here for developers. If you're interested in accessing the helper in order to look up IP addresses, to look up countries for IPs, I've got an example of how it's used in here. But for the purposes of EUE privacy, if you plan on using GeoPlugin with any privacy, you need to come and turn this on, and you can make it more efficient by setting up the cron and switching this to yes. It'll work without it, though. Back to EUE privacy. Oh yeah, one more thing. Before I get in, I'm holding off on this one because this is going to be the most in-depth thing here. The last version, I think it was in 3.9. I was asked to templatize, to make overwritable the page ribbon. I've also made overwritable the modal window. So both of these can be overridden. Those of you who are running Bootstrap 3 or Bootstrap 4 templates, you can now create a template override for the modal, which will allow ePrivacy to launch your modal, and it have your Bootstrap 3 or Bootstrap 4 styles. So that's available. I don't run Bootstrap 3 or 4 templates, so if you're running any issues, talk to me in the forum. I will be happy to try to help you out. Okay, the tough one. This is rough. This is going to be tough to explain. So I'm going to use, I'm going to be switching back and forth to my sandbox server to explain this. one of the features of the GDPR, I'm going to call it a feature because saying that I hate it sounds unprofessional. One of the features of the GDPR is that users should be granted the ability to accept some cookies and decline some others. And I was criticized, rightly, I was criticized for requiring users to make an all or nothing choice, which is absolutely true. That is what I was doing. And what that all or nothing choice did was any user who accepted cookies was added to this accepted cookies group, and then any plugins and modules that ran in accepted cookies that were authorized for accepted cookies would run. Otherwise, the stuff that was in decline cookies would run. So the idea was decline cookies would provide messages that taunted users to accept cookies, and the accepted cookies level contained everything that created cookies. So your Facebook cookies, your Google cookies, your YouTube cookies, your Twitter cookies, all of the everything was all lumped into one acceptance, which is debatably not the intent of the law. So, what I've done is in your configuration, in cookie definitions, yeah, I'll talk about this right now. In cookie definitions, you can choose which cookies are delivered and when they are delivered. We're going to start with the session cookie. By default, this plugin prevents Joomla from setting a session cookie. Sometimes this requires some additional configuration. Some servers are weird. Please contact me in the forums if you have issues with cookies arriving after you've installed this plugin. I have a 100% track record of being able to figure out why it is, and I've even gone so far as to purchase hosting in the EU on specific hosts in order to troubleshoot what was causing it on specific hosts. So please give me the opportunity to troubleshoot it, because I know that this can work on all sites. It just requires some special tweaking and configuration to do it. The session cookie, you can now, if you select yes to this, you can now allow the session cookie to be delivered prior to the user consenting. I will not be doing this on my sites. It was argued to me that I didn't understand the law, but I think that I do. So I put a warning here that I believe that this may violate GDPR Recital 30. If you or your legal counsel determines that it does not, or it does not for your site, you can switch that to yes. The users will be able to log in without consenting to cookies. They won't get any other cookies, but they'll get the session cookie. For the rest, the other things you may want to run: Google Analytics, YouTube videos, Facebook share buttons or like buttons. You can now define these items within this cookie definitions table and associate them with a created access level. So I've created this Google Analytics cookie. I've typed in its name, which is, I'll get to that here in a second. I've given it a description, and I've said it's required to know, which means that users are able to decline it. And I have set its access level to test. You could set the access level to Google Analytics. But the idea is that this is much like the accepted cookies access level. when they do not check the box next to Google Analytics. They don't get that cookie. They don't get added to this access level. When they do check the box, they're added to the access level, and those access level items now load. These items that are marked as required, as soon as they consent, they have no option to uncheck these boxes. They've consented to these, and they have no option of not consenting to them. You can add as many or as few as you want. You can lump them together. You could have one where instead of a single domain for the issuing domain, you might have a comma separated list of 5 or 6 domains, and you want to lump them all into, you could say various, and description is these are social media sharing cookies, and then add all of your social media buttons to that correct access level, which I think is what most people are going to do, because the social sharing plugins and modules don't have this sort of granular access control where I could pick and choose which 1 or 2 buttons would load. It's an all or nothing proposition for any of the social sharing extensions that I've seen. So, likely you're going to group a bunch of domains here and give it some generic name for cookie name and a description that indicates that it's an all-encompassing consent for all of the sharing platforms. You can get specific, you can be vague, that's entirely up to you, and you can also create language overrides so that you can have these items translated into the correct languages for your users. All you have to do is, when you create the overrides, prefix them with these names: plug sys, plug underscore sys underscore eprivacy underscore cookie name underscore whatever. So like maybe it's underscore GA for Google Analytics. And then for its description, cookie DESC underscore GA, for example. And then at that point, you would enter that here. Once you've created those translations within the language manager or within your custom overrides file for each language, however you do it, once you have created those, then you would enter those here. Yeah, it's hard to... sorry, I have to squish the screen down in order to capture at 720p. I don't want to put a bigger video out there. My internet connection sucks. So anyway, you have the ability to translate the name and the description. Not the domain, because why would you translate a domain? It's not. There's no reason to. Is that it? I think that's it. Let's look at the demo. Looking at the sandbox here. Wait. Let me go back here and make sure that I'm looking at what I think I'm looking at. I'm going to set that to no. We're going to save that. Okay. I'm going to refresh here. I think I'm going to have... No, I do not. Sweet. Okay, so we're going to show up here like we're brand new. You arrive and your chosen display method pops up. This is the standard message you're used to seeing. Here are the privacy policy and legal links that you're used to seeing. This table is what's new. Because I set... Sorry about that. I had the wrong screen up here. So, arriving as new. This is the message you're used to seeing. Here are the legal links you're used to seeing. Here are your agree and decline buttons that you're used to seeing. This table is new to you. And the first item in the table is session cookie. The reason that this is here is because I have set force session cookie to no. When I switch this to yes, I clicked on the wrong window. I'm clicking on my video window here. That's what happens when you have too much stuff open at the same time. If I switch that force session cookie to yes and save it, if I refresh, I'm looking at the wrong window again. If I refresh this, session cookie is no longer in the list, and my session cookie has been delivered. So I have one cookie. The system will now deliver one cookie. So I'm gonna turn that back off. Okay, so the session cookie is, this is the purpose of consent, is for you to consent to local cookies and for the system to unlock the ability for third-party cookies. So if you have not chosen to force session cookie, the session cookie is in the list and it is force checked. You can't uncheck it. All of your other cookies are available for you to choose whether or not you want to enable them or not, except for the ones that were marked required. So this one is 15. 15. This one is... Dang it, what did I do? This one is 14. 14. And this one is 10. 10. Okay. Let's go back to that. The cookies you choose are added to your access level, and then the corresponding modules or plugins are allowed to load. I'm not gonna demo showing third-party cookies arrive. That already is demonstrated working with the current system with the accepted cookies level and declined cookies level. So what I'm going to show here is I think that's it. Nope, it's system. Okay. In order to maintain correct checked boxes, these levels are passed back and forth through the system, so you can actually look at these in your JavaScript console if you wanted to. I'm going to check this one. This should be 15. So if I agree to this and I come back here, I have 15. Remember, 14 was auto-checked. I had no choice but to get 14, but I've also been added to 15. Now if I look here, oh, by the way, almost forgot. Next to your remove cookies button, you will now have a change cookie consent button. So if a user has consented, they have the opportunity to change their consent. So I have consented to the GA cookie here. This YouTube cookie was auto-checked, and this Facebook cookie was not checked. So I could swap these now. And I can do that, and then I go back here, and I have 14 and 10. So that was YouTube and Facebook. I can change my consent. If I decline here, it's the same as clicking the remove cookies button. So at this point I have none, and I'm back to no cookies. If I reconsider, you have another option here, and please tell me if you can think of a better way to do this. One of the things within the GDPR was that you can't have auto-checked boxes. Now I'm providing you with the capability to do that because there are some caveats to that where you can require them to accept things that are required for basic site usage. I mean, doing it for YouTube is probably not going to be accepted, but you might add one in there for the Joomla language module, so the language switcher. Just have that one auto checked. So that's basic site functionality. So you can get away with that for some cookies, but not for others. So I would again be cautious and speak with your legal counsel if you are not certain. So I added this extra checkbox in the header, which checks all of the checkable boxes. So it checks and unchecks all the checkable boxes, which I'm going to go ahead and do. So I'm going to agree. Now I've got my long-term cookie and I've got my my session cookie. Now I can just straight remove, I can reconsider, I can check one, agree, change my consent, check the other one, agree. 15, 14, and 10. I can change my consent, remove one, agree. 14 and 10. Now these represent access levels within Joomla, so you don't have to worry about these numbers meaning anything, having any special meaning to you. They represent access levels within Joomla. Now, the more security-minded of you may be concerned that access levels are being passed and users are able to join and remove themselves from access levels based on, what amounts to an AJAX request, and even the content of a cookie. So here we've got 14 and 10. Now, while I applaud you for being concerned about that, I did a sanity check early on when I knew that this was what I was going to do. So let me take you to some code to explain why this is safe. Here we go. This is going to take me just a second here. I don't have my IDE set up as a video source, but I will. Here we go. Let me get this on my screen so I can see it. This match ACL method within the helper class, it compares the incoming request for access level membership with the list of cookie levels. So if somebody is requesting access to a level that's not a cookie level, it's just ignored. So let me scroll this over so you get the whole thing. If they're not requesting any level, this is more an internal thing for me to grab these levels. This is for users who aren't in the EU. If you're running Geo plugin, input is for users who are not in the EU. Cookie required adds them automatically to any required level, and in array is the input that they're requesting, is the level they're requesting one of the cookie ACLs. So if there isn't a match here, then it's not added to the list of ACLs that they're being granted access to. So it's checked every time. So there's no user requesting access to a level, putting in the access level ID for, say, super administrator. Not going to happen. So I'm glad I imagined you asking me that question. Let me bring this back here and go back to there. So if again, I really hope that you're watching this video before doing the upgrade, because this might get confusing if you haven't. I've taken a lot of care to write all of the changes, with the exception of the Geo plugin. That one just will not work without your intervention. I've taken great care to make sure that all of the other changes are backwards compatible. So really the only changes in the front end you'll see is the change cookie consent button will appear. Your accepted and declined cookie access levels will still work. So I'm going to release this within the next few minutes, and I'm going to be available. It's going to be intermittently tomorrow. I will also be available Sunday. I'm going to be available in the evenings. I'm on the Central Standard Time Zone right now, GMT -5. So, like I said, I'm gonna try to make myself available as much as possible this weekend for support, and I'm dropping this for download here in the next few minutes.